strength, leadership, wisdom, responsibility, and Christlikeness. Well, today's our first episode, guys, and I'm super excited that we're finally at a place where we can launch this into the world and begin this amazing journey together. Some of you may be asking why this initiative exists. And today I really want to shed some light on that and help you buy into what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to achieve. I want you to see my heart behind it. And I want you to see why this is very important, especially for men to become a part of. I've really benefited from people who have poured into my life and really taught me what it is to be a man. I appreciate the podcasts that I listen to on a frequent basis that remind me what it is I'm supposed to be doing as a man, what it is that God has called me to be. So today what I really want to do is just kind of cast a vision for you and give you a few reasons why this initiative exists. And the first reason is this: God has called us as men to a particular standard. God has spoken. And since it's God who has created us and he has spoken, our responsibility as his creatures should be to submit to what he said and to obey, to live in obedience to what he's called us to be. So what has God said about manhood? One of my favorite verses in the Bible is 1 Corinthians in chapter 16 and verse 13, which says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong." Verse 14 says, "Let all that you do be done in love." And that's really something I want to live by. In understanding that God has called me to be a man who is watchful, to be a man who stands firm in my faith, to be a man who acts like a man, understanding what it is to be a man and act like a man, and to be strong, and to let everything that I do be motivated by love. Love, first of all, for God, and love for my neighbor. And that's the first thing. You know, if God has spoken, then we really should pay attention to what it is he has actually said. He has given us his Bible. He has given us the Bible in order to know and understand exactly what it is that we're called to be as men. So that's the first reason. God has spoken and we must listen. The second reason is this: masculinity is under attack. I'm sure many of you might have heard of the phrase toxic masculinity, basically insinuating that there's something inherently wrong with men, that men are these natural oppressors who will do every kind of evil towards women and to society in general. And therefore men should be shamed and men should be emasculated, and basically the idea of patriarchy should be completely destroyed. And that's the thing, guys. As men are taken out of society, as men concede to these ideologies, communities really fall apart. And I really don't want to see that happen. And so this is basically an initiative that attempts to restore the virtue of masculinity. Once again, going back to what it is that God has called men to be, and really just living faithfully according to that standard that he's given us. Guys, I can't state this enough, that we should take masculinity seriously. Right? If we really understand what it is to be a man, everyone and everything around us will ultimately flourish. And we don't have to buy into feminist ideology that will make us as men seem less than. We don't have to buy into ideology that does a great disservice to the world at large. Right? If we really understand what it is that God has called us to be as men, we understand that masculinity is beautiful, that it's something worth pursuing, that it's something that God has actively told us to be intentional about as we learn what it is to be men in society. And so let's recover manhood, especially from the clutches of evil ideology that has no regard for God and that has no regard for the love of neighbor. And we're here because we do love God, because he has spoken and called us to live a certain way for his glory. And we're here because he's also called us to love one another in specific ways. And as men, we honor God and honor each other by being everything that God has called us to be. Masculinity is under attack, and we need to defend it. We need to stand up to the challenge and be everything that God has called us to be. The third reason is that some men may actually know what exactly they want to be, but not really know how to get there. And so I'm really hoping that this journey is going to be something that will help you have an understanding of how you can get from where you are now to where you want to be. And just putting in the daily, weekly, monthly, annual work it takes for you to get to where you'd like to go. I mean, when I was a young man, still a teenager, I had a pretty decent idea of what kind of man I wanted to be. I wanted to be a man who loved others, a man who was strong, a man who could be a good husband and a good father. But I didn't always know how I could get there. So I had these fantastic ideals, I had this amazing vision for my life, but I really didn't know what it looked like to put in the work. And the thing is this, I was also really lazy to put in the work. I honestly didn't study the art of masculinity the way I should have. And if I did, I think it would have saved me a lot of time, and it would have spared me from making a lot of mistakes. And so it's important that we understand what it is that we're supposed to be as men, but it's also important for us to understand how we can actually get there. And that's the thing. I asked this question at some point in my life. I'm sure you might have asked this question at some point in your life, or are currently asking it. How can I get there? That's what this is going to be about. We're going to be walking through very specific and practical things that we can do that will allow us to achieve exactly it is that we're pursuing. And so bear with us, walk this journey with us, and I promise you, we will get there. We will become the ordinary gentlemen that God has called us to be. Another reason, the fourth reason, is really to keep me accountable. Right? I wanted to start this initiative because I needed to be held accountable to a standard that I want to live by. I'm going to, in a few minutes, just talk about the code of the ordinary gentleman and what exactly it is that I want to live by and what I hope you will also endeavor to live by as men. But I needed this. I needed this to something that would keep me in the way, something that would remind me what it is that I'm trying to achieve in my life, what it is as men God has called us to achieve. I need this accountability. If anything, I'm doing this for me. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but it's just an understanding that I too need this. I'm not doing this because I feel like I've arrived in life and now I'm just going to give you all my knowledge and wisdom because I finally made it. This is a journey for me too. And basically, this is meant to keep me accountable in walking this journey faithfully. Another reason that I started this is really to pave a path for my son. Several months ago, my son was born, my firstborn son, my first kid. And it really just changed everything for me. At that point, I realized that I needed to train him and show him what it meant to be a man. And this is something I'm going to be doing for many years to come. But I wanted to get a good start in really just laying a foundation and understanding of what it is I should be raising him to be, what it is I should be raising him to do. And it really dawned on me that it's on me to not just tell him what to do, but to actually walk that path before him, to pave that before him, to model what it looks like to be strong, to be a leader, to be wise, to be responsible, and ultimately to be Christ-like. That is my responsibility as my son's father. And I know there are many other fathers out there. You might be a father yourself. And maybe you've asked questions about how you'd like to raise your sons, how you'd like to raise your children in general. And I think this initiative will be good for you as we both take this journey together and understanding what it is that God has called us to be as fathers. I need this, guys. My son needs this. And I'm trying to have a multi-generational vision about this. In other words, I want my son to be able to look at this video and the videos to come 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now and see and find things that will benefit him in significant ways. I want him to be able to look back and acknowledge that his father put in the work to show him what it meant to be a man, and specifically a man who loves God above all else. I want to leave that kind of legacy for my son. And that doesn't simply happen by having great ideas. It's about being able to build those ideas as well. It's about being faithful to that task every single day of my life. I can't cop out on that. This has become a primary vocation for me. I am a husband. I am a father. And I am called to be a good husband. I'm called to be a good father, a faithful husband and a faithful father. And that doesn't happen by chance. That happens by actually putting in the work. And so these are really my 5 reasons for why I wanted to start this podcast. Because God expects something out of men, because masculinity is under attack and needs to be defended and restored, because some men may know what it is that they want to be but not know how to get there. To keep me accountable is the fourth reason. And fifth reason is just to pave a path for my son and to show him what it is to actually be a man. So I'm very excited about this, and I really look forward to taking this journey with you. What I want to do now is just read out what I call the Ordinary Gentleman Code. And I basically wrote this code to remind me what it is that I'm actually trying to aim for. What is it to be an ordinary gentleman? What am I asking you to buy into? So I'm just going to read out the statement, and I decided to write it down so that I don't forget, so that I always can have something to refer to. So I'm going to read this out, and I hope that you can buy into what's actually been written down here. So this is the code. Who is an ordinary gentleman? Well, he is one who embraces his God-given masculinity, seeking to master spiritual, physical, emotional, and intellectual disciplines for the purpose of being discerning, standing firm in the faith, perfecting the art of manliness, and being strong. He is above reproach, a one-woman man in a covenantal way. He embraces fatherhood and respects authority. He takes responsibility and is self-controlled. He is a man of dominion, faithfully subduing the space around him. He is moral, loving good and hating evil. He dresses well and pays attention to his posture. He esteems others highly, honors all women, and holds himself to a high standard of class. He is not passive, weak, immature, nor ignorant. He leaves childish behavior behind and strives toward mature manhood. He depends on the grace of God. He's repentant. He exercises humility and lives according to the will of God alone. He is gentle, continuously perfecting the control of power and strength. He protects, he provides, and leads. He is a warrior, a hunter, and a poet. He is intentional, never stops learning, and pursues the status of sage. He is God's man, exercising faithfulness and integrity, even at great cost. In all things he is found faithful rather than wanting. The glory of God is his ultimate goal. That's what it means to be an ordinary gentleman. I am looking forward to taking this journey, and I'm looking forward to you joining me on this journey as we become this kind of man. We are ordinary gentlemen, and I pray that God would find us faithful rather than wanting.